It's 6:30. Let's start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As usual, please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. I need to announce this meeting is being recorded and televised by WHCA. And then we need to kick off our meeting pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. So I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Do a roll call vote.
Yes.
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 All right. We are in executive session. We will return into open. Right. We are back on. I neglected to read before going to executive session that portion of the meeting was held both in person and remotely. It was executive session, so members of the public were not able to attend, and portions of the meeting and no broadcast was made of that piece. But now we are back in open session. I will once again announce the meeting is being recorded and televised by WHCA, and I need a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept correspondence into the read file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, public forum. Anybody with anything not on the agenda? Okay. Seek a motion to approve meeting minutes for open session July 14th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to approve meeting minutes for open session July 28th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Our first item, public hearing regarding the application of AXP Inc. for a Class II auto dealer's license on the premises located at 11 Franklin Street, subject to the receipt of license fee, surrender of the current license on the premises, and final inspection approval of the building commissioner. And if approved, we would vote to rescind the Class II auto dealer's license for Paul and Bob Inc. on the premises at 11 Franklin Street, effective on the issuance of the license for AXP Inc. Is anyone from AXP here? You guys want to come up? Yeah, grab another one. Thank you. Yeah, we set up for one. You guys want to just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what the plan is?
So currently, the Paul and Bob Inc. that operates out of 11 Franklin Street, we have a used car license there. That's owned by my dad Roger and my uncle Robert, who couldn't make the meeting tonight. But we are just looking to essentially transition from the mainly operated business from Robert, his brother, into AXP, which they both own. So same people owning it and everything, essentially just a change.
Any
This is the
Yeah.
dealership that's next to Body Magic.
Correct.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Any questions from the board? All right, public hearing. Any questions from the public? All right.
Yes, I have one.
Yeah.
Are you guys still going to do inspections?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion to accept.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. Congratulations.
Hey.
Good luck.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chair?
Yep.
Do you take a separate vote?
Oh, and yeah, we do need a second vote to rescind the Class II auto dealer's license for Paul and Bob Inc. on the premises at 11 Franklin
So,
Street.
so moved.
Second.
All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Yes.
Chairman's report. So we will discuss the contract with our incoming town administrator in executive session later, but she is here tonight, so hopefully the preliminary discussions went well. I'll just add that today is August 11th, 811 day. Remember to call Dig Safe before you dig. It's a lot of my day job. All right. Yeah. New business. Act on the resignation of Scott Lambiasi as member of the Bylaw Study Committee, effective July 27th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
Scott here.
Nope.
Fine, working.
Yeah, they're keeping him in Kingston late now.
Yeah.
Chair,
Yes.
before you move to the next agenda item, which is to appoint a member to the bylaw study committee, I'd like to make a motion to table that to the next meeting. And I'd be happy to give discussion.
I'll.
Just-
Sure. Yeah.
second
So-
that motion.
Second for discussion.
Thank you for discussion. I'm noticing that this gives the appearance of a simultaneous resignation and an appointment of the same member or the same position on a board. So we just accepted a resignation for the bylaw study committee, and the next is to appoint someone to the bylaw study committee. The resignation was dated July 27th. And then in our packet for Mr. John Casey to appoint him, it has a date stamp from the town of July 28th, which is the very next day. So my concern is that we're not offering the opportunity to anyone in the public to announce that there's a vacancy on this particular board and to encourage people to apply or have interest in it. In the past, we have announced various vacancies on boards. We didn't at the last meeting. I don't see it on this agenda for a full announcement of all our vacancies. And what I've continued to talk about is open government, transparency, encouraging civic engagement. We have the electronic sign out front of our town hall. I would like to see that utilized more often. I don't know if there's a limitation to the capacity we can put on there, but I think we should have every single vacancy on there. We have a town website, we have social media. So my ask is that we announce that there is a vacancy on the bylaw study. We encourage people to apply online. I do have a question if we have a policy or procedure about volunteers application. I know on the website it does say to volunteer, sign up here. So there is a form letter for that, and that particular process doesn't appear to be followed for this submission. So that is my discussion.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
Is John Casey, is he a non-voting member?
No, I believe this would be a voting member on the committee.
Correct.
One-year term to fill a vacancy. Yeah.
No, I'm saying Scott Limbiazzi is a voting member coming off of it.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, I don't believe the bylaw study committee has any non-voting members. He's not being promoted from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because usually that's if you're a non-member of a non-voting member of a committee, and then all of
Or
a
the
sudden there's an
ZBA,
opening.
that's
Usually,
usually
that's
Yeah.
usually what we
Sure.
usually do, but not in this case.
I kind of have mixed feelings, but I think I'm going to support you. Like on the one hand, I think, he seems like a great candidate. So obviously, it's very nice that somebody stepped forward to fill a position. But on the other hand, the bylaws study committee is a really important committee, and I think letting the public know that there's an opening, and then maybe we can have a certain protocol for give a certain period of time so that people are aware, and then some people. I think that really does sound appropriate. Yeah. So I like the idea. I don't want him to be upset that
Right, this is a-
we feel like we're not supporting him, because it's very nice that he's stepping forward to come on the committee. I don't even know him, but
Right, and I think my ask would be, again, he submitted a letter, it's in our packet, so it's public record. It says, I'll read it. It says, "Dear Honorable Select Board members, I am a recently retired electrician that has lived in Whitman almost 40 years. I have previously served on the Finance Committee and the Feasibility Study Committee for the building of the new Whitman-Hanson Regional High School a number of years ago," which we know is about 22 years ago. "I would like to apply for the position as a member of the Bylaw Study Committee. Thank you in advance, John Casey." And again, it was date stamped the day after the resignation was submitted for Scott Lambiase. Maybe it was a coincidence, but to me, it gives the appearance that people are talking in town, and that's great, right? People have friends, or they have, they're at the coffee shop. Hey, I'm on this board. Oh, I can't really do it anymore, and that's great. But we want to offer it and be open that there's a vacancy for all.
I get that. And, I guess my only question to Mary Beth is, I can't imagine there's any pressing matters before the bylaw city committee right now. It's usually just before town meeting
Right, not
crunch.
right now.
So I don't see a harm in pushing this off to at least the next meeting and announcing that there's a vacancy.
I think he stepped forward, and we should honor that.
I think the intent would be to put him back on for the next agenda.
And what if someone else says, I'd like to be on it? Now we have two people
Then-
looking for one position. Which one do you give it to? The one who asked first?
That would be
Or
one
you
way
gonna
for.
have the bylaw study committee go with one person less? It's like recreation. They didn't have any members. And I ended up being able to find one person to go because I was going to their meetings as a liaison, but I couldn't vote. But I was able to find actually your wife was on it, right? And
Yeah.
I was able to find a third person so they had a quorum. And, I
Sounds
just
like
think
we can
he's
make
stepping
improvements.
forward.
Yeah, there's definitely we could improve our volunteer process, both openness and recruitment. Mary Beth.
Maybe as a compromise, we, move Jack Casey and approve that, but then make it a decision of policy that in the future, if there's a resignation, then to fill that position can't happen at the same meeting, has to have at least a meeting apart. So there's time to get it up.
And so I'm only worried. I'm trying to think of a scenario where that might cause a problem.
Oh,
like,
you don't know.
yeah, if
I'm just
someone-
trying to accommodate
if you lose a
everyone.
quorum, right, in a committee and need to start backfilling.
Sure.
But I think I don't see a harm in holding this until the next one. So I think I would support Don's motion there.
Chair, if I may also add
Yeah.
comment. My first meeting, May 19th, you may recall, we acted on the resignation of Rich Rosen from the Community Preservation Committee, and then we appointed Jason DeRosa simultaneously
Yeah.
to the Community Preservation Committee. And I believe I made open comment at that time that Jason, just like Mr. Casey, perhaps resume qualified, but have we given enough notice to the community?
That one I do have the backstory on. I'd encourage Jason to apply before there was a vacancy and his application was sitting in the queue. But
Okay.
um,
The appearance.
but yeah, the
of
appearance is definitely there.
simultaneous, Yeah. So,
I do know
I
Jack
appreciate-
Casey. I think he'd be a great member of the bylaw study committee. But
He stepped forward. I
Yeah.
said,
So my motion is to
so the motion is to
table this.
Table this. We've had discussion.
I seconded.
Thank
All in favor of tabling? All right. All opposed?
I stepped
one.
forward, but yet.
And may I also ask town administrator to make an effort to announce these vacancies through social media, on the electronic signboard? And what other outreach do we have, Meredith?
So there are some vacancies you want them constantly, I mean, they're on the website. Vacancies, when they come up, don't know that, that one, because it was, somebody came in on the same
accepted it
time on the
today,
same
yeah.
agenda.
Okay.
This would
Right.
be good for the newsletter. We had
This would be
And
good
it's
for
on
the
the-
newsletter. That yeah.
We did
Yeah,
push it
medical.
onto the website.
But I think to have maybe put a link on the board. No,
So the
seeking
list-
volunteers for committees. Visit whitmanmass.gov/
You not
whatever.
list them.
But not necessarily list the vacancies on the board, right? That way it's
I-
not a.
Could we?
We probably could. Yeah.
I mean,
think
Yeah.
finance committee has, there's
Yeah, yeah.
several.
Yeah.
we can-
a running list. We need help.
Yeah.
I think.
That works.
Well, I think to your point too, Don, a strategic opening, like there's an opening on the bylaw study committee, and it just came up. It would make sense to talk about that, maybe at the next meeting, like 3 more positions just opened up, we're taking applications, may not have, was maybe not on the board last week, so now it is. So, hey,
Yeah.
if you're interested, reach out. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks. Act 2, reappoint Michael Ganchard as member Historical Commission for a 3-year term through June 30th, 2029. Admitted an error from the annual appointment list.
So moved.
Second.
Yep. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Act for rescinding the appointment of Eric Campbell from the position of Auxiliary Special Police Officer effective July 1st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Old business. Eric Dresser, WHCA access agreement. Come on up, Eric.
Welcome.
Glad everything timed out well. I just came from Johnson.
Perfect.
Similar conversation.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you a little bit of background first? I know I was here maybe 6 weeks ago talking about some of the legislative. You guys were able to do the resolution. It was helpful, but it didn't ultimately get us over the goal line. I know we're talking about it.
Yep.
But modernization is definitely a theme that we have to be looking at here in 2026 for community media. Our agreement, our access grant agreement with the towns of Whitman and Hanson had expired right around the time of the cable licenses. You might recall the cable license renewed 2 years ago. Hanson's was last summer. And then with scheduling issues and everything like that, this is sort of the first chance we've had to bring everything together and kind of go through and document existing practices, try to memorialize all of that in black and white, modernize where appropriate, and then just ensure that what we're capturing actually reflects the realities of what we're doing and doesn't kind of create any new processes, because we've got a good system that works. We also here in Whitman have some great institutional knowledge with Mary Beth. We sort of a short runway on that, so we wanted to capitalize on that opportunity and come in here and document all that. So we did largely take the old agreements and go in and just mostly modernize it, and then take in the areas that were ambiguous or perhaps not accurately reflected and just update those. Everything was reviewed by town council, WHCA's council, of course, with feedback and forth between town administrators and I, and then it went to the WHCA board. And so everything has been looked at several times, and I didn't say clearly, but the big goal on this was to also have as much parity or symmetry with Hanson as possible, so that everything is fair and equitable from town to town, because that's always something that's very important.
Questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
In town of Hanson, the money that is given towards the cable studio, is that automatically go right to your account, or does it have to go be moved in a town meeting? Because ours is, it comes to,
Goes through the town meeting, the whole appropriation process. The checks are still running to WHCA in their case. We're still hopeful, and there was almost an amendment to sort that out, just to
Right.
replace that word appropriate, because that one sticky word creates the whole process,
Yeah.
instead of being able to just automatically transfer those funds. But yeah, that is one area of difference.
okay,
That exists here.
gotta get that then, yeah, okay. As long as you get the money.
And that's the important part.
Yeah.
Don?
Can you elaborate on what you just said? The checks are still arriving
So
from Hanson.
historically, the operating checks would come in on a quarterly basis from Comcast. The towns are the issuing authority per the cable license, and so the checks for a long time came directly to the towns. And then at some point in the past, before my time at WHCA, it was more direct just to have the checks go directly to WHCA for deposited and then use in our operational business. And then there was a change from, I want to say, the Massachusetts ELS, that basically said to do the appropriation process and for things to kind of go through town meeting. And so that is the process that we have here. We've created warrant articles. And one of the areas that we actually just changed in this access agreement is we actually have a warrant article specifically for the operating funds, and then another largely parallel warrant article for the capital funds. And both of them just basically say that, kind of works pursuant to section 6.4 and 6.5 respectively of the cable license, that outlines how that funding works. And then it just has all the legal citations and everything to explain the Massachusetts general laws that I guess govern all of the way that the money is supposed to flow.
Okay.
In my little crash course that I've gotten through the process.
Okay. The work you do is outstanding, and I thank you for everything you do, supporting this meeting right now and so forth. I'm struggling because thank you for emailing today. I had asked for the copy of the previous agreement because when looking at a new contract, I always want to know where we were. And I'm also interested in understanding the financing and the numbers in the budget behind this and how the two towns work together to fund
The nice thing-
WHCA.
Yeah, the nice thing is it's all very clear through the cable license. I believe that 4.75% of all cable revenue, some not internet and phone, but all cable revenue, comes back to the towns of Whitman and Hanson for the use in funding PEG access. There is then an additional capital amount over the 10-year license term that is negotiated and divided by the 10 years of license and issued, once every 10 years, every year for 10 years. So basically, the amount of money quarter to quarter depends on the subscribership at any given time during the year. And if somebody has, for example, a $100 Comcast bill, perhaps you might say $33 of that is cable, $66 of that is internet and phone. We would get 4.75% of that $33 in this fictional example would go to fund WHCA's work from that single subscriber. And then you multiply that out across all the subscribers in Whitman, all the subscribers in Hanson. So it is not a necessarily even contribution town to town, but it is, I guess, is per capita the right term, but like per person. And it also does vary on the saturation of subscribership in each town. I don't really know the metrics, you know, if you have 50%, 70% town to town.
Okay. And the building that you operate out of is in Whitman.
And it's a Whitman Town building.
Okay. Can you speak, or Mary Beth, can you speak to what that costs the town and how, you know, expense-wise
And
and,
if you
Lower
want,
tax.
yeah, so we do a payment in lieu of
Payment in lieu of
taxes, just like I think you have a handful of other examples here in town. So as the name implies, it's what the taxes would be for that building for the year we pay. But I think that we have some wonderful examples too that we can point to over the roughly 10 years that I've been there, replacing the roof, installing a generator, new HVAC, IT, you know, a lot of betterments that we've made to the building because it helps us do what we do. And we don't want it falling apart around us. There's a lot of expensive and important equipment.
is there a lease agreement?
The pilot is in this.
Okay. Chair, what I'm really asking is just a little more time to read through this. We just got it end of last week, so I need more time. It's 24 pages of a contract that's going to last for 10 years. So that's really all I'm asking. I'm not voting no, I'm asking for more time to understand this and really formulate any more questions I might have. I haven't had a chance.
Sean, you can
I'll second that motion to table.
motion to table.
Oh, was that a motion I
see-
made?
Would you like to rephrase the motion?
I'd like to make a motion to table this until the next meeting. I have more time to review.
You have a
Yeah,
second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All right. Any more discussion from the board before I go to Rosemary?
Yes, what is that,
Yeah.
is that gonna interfere with your operation?
No, I am curious about the runway before Mary Beth is gone though, and her institutional knowledge with it. I did a lot of work to try to meet tonight's deadline, and I don't know what the next meeting date is relevant to her.
We do have one more meeting on the books before Mary Beth retires.
So-
Okay,
So if that's the case, then this should be on, if we do delay it by a meeting, time for her to read her pages, that we make a decision whether she finished the pages or not at our next meeting, so we can go on with our studio.
Don can read a contract in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
One follow-up though, the former agreement says, well, I'm reading here, it says for a 10-year term from June 3rd, 2024. So that means,
that may have been when this work started.
Right.
We would update
So-
the dates.
so we've gone 2 years already
Yeah.
Yeah.
without a contract, right? So I'm hoping we can take 2 more weeks to just understand this.
Rosemary, you had a question?
Rosemary Hill, 405 Franklin Street. Okay, so I've seen and been part of local cable things in other towns. It's always been fun and it's a great asset. But this is the first time I've ever seen 2 towns using one town's building. And so it's great. They always use the pilot within the town and they always do that. But when one town is providing that building and they're forgoing rent or they're forgoing the ability to sell that building for anything, and of course that's right on our main drag, it seems inequitable. And,
Yeah, I
and I
mean-
think a review of that, I'm going to ask from the board on the equity of actually Whitman supplying the building in its entirety. And that maybe there should be some sort of lease version in which both towns are sort of participating. And I'm only saying this because I am watching cable. I'd like to see all that money for cable going into cable. Do you see? So it's not meant as a,
Yeah.
it's meant as we're moving towards a place where we're going to have to subsidize our public if we don't do something legislatively, which I would love to do. and talk to you about. But if we get there and we do want to preserve this, there's going to have to be some play-in from the towns at one point. It's a very important source of information for most of the people in town. So I guess I'm looking towards the future and ensuring that there's no inequity. Right now, it's all coming from cable bills, and I guess, but as we move forward, thank you.
All right, so you're asking that they should be paying rent?
Hold on, and yeah, we're getting a little off track here.
Yeah, you're gonna get a little off track. There is things that are happening right now where people don't pay for cable anymore. They pay for Netflix. They pay for all these things, and essentially, he mentioned this in the beginning that they won't be able to afford to run. So some of the suggestions are that we take from other places, that we find other revenue sources to run them. And some of those suggestions are the towns. If we sign a 10-year lease, you've got to consider this, because part of our contribution is that building, right? When it's not just paid for by, money that we already have to pay for within the thing, when it actually starts to be something we have to consider to pay for out of our pocket to some degree, we have to start thinking about how much that we're contributing this building. That's all I'm saying, because you're about to sign a 10-year lease. You have to think what's going to happen within that 10 years. That's all. Thank you.
I personally am pretty comfortable with WHCA maintaining a building that the town owns and paying us a
and
pilot at the end of the year. But
And I would just correct it, it's not really a lease agreement that you're looking at.
Correct. It's the operating
is the cable license is the 10-year agreement that locks you in with Comcast. Absolutely. The framework in Article 6 of the cable license is there that kind of explains what PEG access is, public education and government access television. What this document does here is expands upon that framework and says exactly how it's implemented. It says what you should expect from us. It says what we should expect from you, defines reasonable notice, allows us, this particular update, the modernization that I'm talking about, allows for alternative revenue opportunities a little bit more clearly than the old one did. The old one allowed it, but in here, it's just a little bit more defined because, as she said, it's a little bit more necessary for us to consider these days. So again, I don't think that it's necessarily it's going to lock you in. If it does lock anything in, it just locks in the rules that are going to work around sort of the expectations bi-directionally to WHCA from WHCA. And then the funding is just going to be following the subscribership, as I said. And then, we are going to look to other ways. We've talked a little bit about this in some of my past appearances, other ways to potentially monetize our content so that it's not exclusively cable viewers who are paying for it, but so that everybody's paying a fair fee for access to access television.
But we do have a motion and a second to table. If there's no more discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Aye.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
If I known that, it would have been 3-2 then.
That's fine. It passes. So yeah, we'll put this on the next agenda with.
Did Hanson pass
They
tonight?
did.
They did.
Okay.
So we'll still hope we can get equity between the two agreements,
Yep.
as similar as possible, but we'll circle back on the 25th.
We'll put it
Yeah,
on the
you're-
25th agenda.
You'll be invited back.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
3 in a row. Oh, no, not for you guys.
Yeah.
There.
Thanks, Evan.
Thanks, Eric. All right, we have budget update separate from the budget subcommittee. So budget update to Mary Beth, maybe.
Well, I was talking to Sean earlier, and I think that the budget update is really going to circle around the meetings, the budget subcommittee meeting. We weren't really planning for
A standalone budget.
a standalone
Okay.
budget, no, but I did reach out to, I had discussions with our town accountant to start updating our receipts. This is where she's getting into her busy time of year to close everything out, but updating the local receipts on the revenue tab, those pieces of the budget from the accountant. And then for the actual budget, going in and just putting in 2.5%, just as a starter. That's what the unions have pretty much. So I'll put that in across the board. I'll have the debt filled in by the treasurer collector, and she'll put in all of her debt for the water, sewer, and all the general fund and all of that. And then the others would just be what type of assumptions do we want to make as far as department heads, right, for their expenses Before we have said level fund, we can't say level fund. Level fund isn't realistic. I mean, the schools use level service, and that's what we need to do as well. Because costs go up, our electricity goes up, and you just do level fund, you're just completely going backwards. So at a minimum, level service, and then I would just do a 2.5 unless somebody else has a contract. But we've started the wheels in motion, and we will have the pieces to put in, and I can certainly have something on the 25th. Just as a hypothetical, we'll have to make some assumptions. I'll probably go in with the medical around 10%.
We were talking about revenue and expenditure assumptions earlier today in the budget. I'm sure Don's going to speak to it. So, connecting on that, I think would be helpful.
Okay. Go right into the committee updates, which is budget subcommittee. So, Dawn.
Thank you. Sure. Sean and I met today at 5 o'clock. But before I get into that, the board was given what Sean and I discussed 2 weeks ago at the budget subcommittee, which was a capital planning policy and a debt management policy. This was in your packet. It is actually approved by the town of Rockland. We are using this just as a guide as the town of Rockland utilized the DLS, Division of Local Services, and Department of Revenue to create their policies. This was updated August of 2023, so it is recent within the past few years. What you have been given, again, is simply Sean and I, as a subcommittee, are referring these two policies to you in regards to capital planning and debt management for your review, for discussion, and contribution from the town administrator, town accountant, treasurer collector, finance committee, are all decision makers, as well as our capital committee would be involved in this. So that's what's been presented to the board tonight.
Yeah,
In your, oh, sorry, I'll also add it in your packet, so I don't know if you're looking, it's page 30, starts on page 24, is the beginning of the town of Rockland, and then page 33 is the table of contents, so you can see the comprehensive list of their policies, and the capital planning begins in your packet on page 36.
yeah. And if I could jump in first, so I appreciate this. I think it's a great place to start. On the capital planning policy, and I'm sure you'll discuss this in the subcommittee, but couple quick things to highlight is that our definition of capitals in our bylaws differs a little bit from what Rockland has here, and the regional school district has a different definition of capital in the regional agreement. So, two wrinkles to that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more wrinkles actually. And we said what we're doing was we're proposing policy. We like the policy because it's comprehensive. It's really user friendly. I think it helps a lot of us who are on the outside get a better understanding about how the process works. But the details, just like you said, there's some of the policy is going to run counter to like what's in our bylaws. So some of the policy is going to speak specifically to like ratios or percentages. We're not proposing, I don't want to speak for you, Don, but my understanding is we're not proposing those details to be adopted by us tonight. What we're proposing is conceptually policy like that we'd then like you to consider to also kind of support, not that it's completely accurate as it's written, just that the next step in the process might be something like the professional staff will then review the policy, look at some of those ratios, contrast it with the bylaw, maybe come back to us and say, hey, this is what we think a recommendation for some of those percent, so there'll be some back and forth. Obviously the capital committee should be able to formally look at this policy, give us some feedback, so we'll start the process on all that. But I think we're just looking for you guys to maybe agree that this is an appropriate step that we should begin, but not that that you're accepting it as currently written.
Why did you choose Rockland?
We also looked, there was town of Stoughton, but there wasn't a reason why, but I
It's an
will say
exemplar
because
one.
it's been vetted by the
Yeah.
Division of Local Services and Department of Revenue.
Seems like
And-
the gold standard kind of for.
Well, I'm looking at, standards from a town that was basically like town of Whitman. And Rockland has certain aspects of the town like our town, but there's a lot of different aspects there too.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think a policy needs to be specific to the demographics or the population of a town, because,
It does and the businesses, if there's more business in a town, the financial planning,
That's kind of what we were saying. If you review the form of the policy and the bones of the policy across many towns, they all seem to have some commonalities.
yes.
And the presentation of this is, it's presented. DLS put a lot of time. It's obvious into the way it's presented, so it's really user friendly. There's like a scope, there's a purpose, there's who's involved, there's the background, there's resources underneath. It's really thorough. But the nuances of what make it work within the community itself, that's kind of what we're saying. We don't have that worked out yet.
Right.
We'd like the financial team to really review that, give us recommendations, us to wrestle with it, and then get some, feedback from other committees. So it's not that we're just adopting Rockland's policy, I
Right.
guess the point. It's more the
template,
template
Then-
and
Right.
the
framework.
And let it fit the Whitman.
and then let it fit.
Absolutely.
Does it appear that this policy it looks like it was developed by DLS with some sort of a grant or
Yes.
something? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because they actually
Yeah.
did it for them.
And just to add, in the document, under their description, and I think this is key to the struggles Whitman has had, the second paragraph on page 36 is what I'm going to read from, but it says the Capital Planning Committee, so that's what Rockland has, CPC they call it, with the assistance of the town administrator and town accountant will serve as ex officio members, is charged to oversee a comprehensive capital improvement program. So this tells the public and the board who's responsible for what, right? And we know that town of Whitman had a capital improvement plan. I've talked about it before, but within that, it never truly identified who was responsible for carrying it out. I think that's what was missing, and that's what's so important, and that's what I look to for this. Now, for Whitman, we have a capital committee, I believe, right? Not a
Correct.
planning committee. So we do have to work through.
And the
And
capital
determine-
committee is structured basically as approving articles each year for town.
Right. It
Right,
really-
this
Vetting
puts
that
a lot
process, yeah.
more ownership, responsibility on our capital committee, and that's, I have emailed the chair, Mike Warner, and the vice chair, Kathleen Otina. I'm sorry, I'm talking about finance committee. They're also involved, but Stephen Boyce.
Yeah.
So I had emailed Stephen Boyce as chair of the capital just to alert him that this had been an agenda item. So there's a lot of work to be done still. This is not a decision to be made tonight, but it's a beginning.
Yeah, one other comment. The thing is, we also need look at a plan of a town that's in a regional agreement. Because you have the schools that have their own capital needs that we basically pay a certain amount towards. But then if you have the town of Rockland, doesn't have a regional, except for South River, okay, but doesn't have a regional school system like Whitman Hanson does. So the Rockland, the school system in Rockland is the town's school system.
I do think, the regional agreement angle of this is probably a pretty big topic of conversation the last few weeks.
For sure. And within each of the policies, we had some good discussion today where, say with the free cash policy, we're talking about the policy as it's written seems to be like a really well written policy from like the DLS that gives like the default statement about how you would use free cash. But then there are a couple of other towns around us that have a bit more nuanced policy. So I'm sure what we'll do over the next couple months with each of these policies is do some research. Like, although this is pertaining to Rockland, we are going to look at some that are regional. We're going to look at some that have a unique situation. So it's not that we're saying we're just asking to support this as it's currently written. just the first, maybe the second step in the process,
Right.
to look at this policy and then, you know,
Right,
just
some
let
of
the
their
process
policies
kind of
may
play
not fit
itself
our town,
because
and some of the policies that we want may not fit their town.
Yeah.
You know, whether, you know, certain towns, yeah.
Mary Beth?
I just want to keep in mind too, it just occurred to me that the capital committee was an article at town meeting, the formation, the
Yeah.
members. So we want to keep that in mind. That was a town meeting vote when we look at something that's changing the makeup of that. But that would go to the capital committee,
Yeah.
this for review and their comment and feedback, and then
Yeah.
you can come back and we can tweak it or
Yeah.
put an article on town meeting to change it or whatever needs to be done.
I appreciate this. I think this is really helpful. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, and towards the further down in this same capital planning, they have several bullet points, just to roughly, the definition of a capital improvement. I won't read it all, but then they talk about inventory, right? Who's responsible for maintaining that, evaluating the capital projects themselves, having a multi-year capital plan, capital financing, right? Whether it's debt service or funded from the general fund. Something we haven't talked about also is betterment assessments, right? So a betterment will be assessed to property owners. Again, this is Rockland, but it says for water sewer extensions on the existing system. And then last is capital project closeouts. And I remember when Mark Abrams did some consulting and he reconciled the books of Whitman and Hanson in Whitman Hanson Regional School District and the capital items, reconciling those. So all of that goes into this capital.
We've also talked as part of the capital committee about some of those capital project closeouts in the past where
Yeah.
things are on the books for a couple of years as appropriations. Do we need to keep them going?
Yeah, and it sounded at the time last year that exercise hadn't been done in a while, right? It has been cleaned up, but this solidifies it, right? And to remind that we should be working on that. Should I carry on with debt management?
Sure.
So debt management talks about to provide for the appropriate issuance and responsible use of debt. This policy defines the parameters and provisions governing debt management. Policy adherence will help the town to responsibly address capital needs, provide flexibility in current and future operating budgets, control borrowing, and sustain capital investment capacity. Can also help the town to maintain or enhance a favorable bond rating to achieve long-term interest savings. And again, creating a policy like this applies to including the finance committee, town administrator, capital, of course, town accountant's budget analysis and reporting is important. So using debt as a tool, I think, is important in identifying when it's appropriate, right? And to understand the strains on the community and what the tolerance is within debt limits. The policy, sorry, just one moment, it speaks to, again, different parameters such as the total debt service, including debt exclusions, shall be limited to 10% of general fund revenues. So again, a lot of what I talked about in the subcommittee is understanding what these numbers are, right? And asking our town administrator and town accountant in the future, down the road, to get us information that would help us understand what these numbers are related to Whitman if we were to implement policies.
We will be well above that 10% general fund revenues that Rockland is seeking to maintain. Yeah.
One of the things I love about the debt management policy is, like, for us who are outside of this world, it's hard for us to kind of envision how this happens. I've got to talk to Mary Beth Cotter a number of times over the years, and I'm just so impressed by how well she knows it. You know what I mean? The policy, I think, is helpful for the everyday person to say, like, wow, okay, this is kind of like the method behind, like, how they put together the way that they borrow. And I think that will also help with because of the transparency piece, I think it will help with the confidence level with people saying, oh, that makes sense to me. I would support that. You know what I mean? Where some of the trouble we've had over the past is just communicating the method behind the reason why we want that and that kind of stuff. And I think this really adds a cool element. You mix it with, we had another discussion about the budget document. finding ways to become more transparent about what we do in an intelligent way. And I think this really does that work.
My ask for you on the debt management policy would be to run it by our bond counsel as well. I imagine you would, but yeah. They weigh heavily in our borrowing decisions
And our financial advisor.
and our financial advisor.
Ultimately, I think one of the things that will come out of this is we need policy over the next 5 years that is going to keep us on stable ground, but also allow us to provide the services that our citizens expect. But that's going to be a difficult plan to develop, really. And one of the core things that we want to keep is like we want our bond council, and we want our bond rating to stay high as it is right now. You know, we want good every time we have an audit, we want to have a positive audit. We want to create policy and a plan over the next 5 years that is going to be strategic and transparent and all those things. I think the policy is a really good first step to it. Just in our conversation today, how many times was it interconnected with so many different things? It was really interesting. I love the discussion today. It's good stuff.
Thank you. So yeah, just to give a little debrief on our 5 o'clock meeting today, we reviewed financial reserves, which is the next item. If you scroll down, it's page 44. We don't need to talk about it yet because it's not on this agenda for this meeting, but that's will come up for this board to discuss next time. And then the following one, we started to talk about forecasting revenue expenditures. We didn't finish that, so we'll continue that when the subcommittee meets again at 5 o'clock on August 25th. And you touched on the budget book, so that was the beginning. We talked a little about communication, formulating, gathering information more than just Article 2 to share with the community, and how actually using AI can be helpful because all the certified information on Department of Revenue could be captured, and with some work or not a lot of effort, maybe put into an easily readable format as far as 5-year trend, right? 3 to 5 year history, where we're at, where we're going, forecasting, but getting as much information out to the public, because if people don't know, then they're going to question or not trust. So.
Is it okay if so I think our plan is, so next meeting, we'll put another one of these for you guys to consider, quick discussion and hopefully support. And then it'll probably happen, 3 more times or so? Because there'll be forecasting, and then there's indirect costs, and is that it maybe?
There's 4 more after that.
Yeah, I think it's more helpful than coming back to us with
So
a
much.
60-page
That's really
policy. Yeah,
Yeah.
get some initial feedback. Ultimately, I'm sure there will be some full Whitman financial policy document that we do have to review, but I think
Yeah, and I
teasing
think
it out is
right, and we talked a lot about, our town administrator and our new town administrator and town accountant, again, our staff, doing the work also, right, and getting these numbers for us, and what their availability is to do that. So we want to be sensitive to that, but at the same time, can't set policy if we don't have information as well. Yeah, so just touch on that. So after indirect cost allocation was investments, one-time revenues, and OPEB. Those are the others we'll be reviewing down the road.
And our OPEB policy is short and sweet, but I'm sure it can be improved.
So as far as next steps, I don't know, Chair, do we put these 2 on the agenda again, just for the purpose of the ability to talk about them? If you all take them away and take more time to look at them and have some feedback, I mean, we can always pass over the agenda item if there's no time or whatnot.
I think send me at least the next 2 that we hope to review at the next meeting, and maybe we'll do it. Yeah, include this as an old business. We'll find some way to structure
Okay.
an inclusive bullet, so we may revisit some of this stuff.
Yeah, and if the meeting goes long and we don't get to it, then
Yeah.
it's there.
Thank you guys for checking away at it. Town administrator report. Mary Beth.
Okay, a few things here. So Complete Streets Grant, the town has applied for this year's Complete Streets Funding Program. Plymouth Street requested design funding for pedestrian improvements, including sidewalks and/or a shared use path. And for South Avenue, requested up to $150,000 in design funding for pedestrian and bicycle accommodations and related complete streets improvements. Bruce Martin had put this in and started this before he left. Bob Trumbull and Matt Dyer have been working on this, so that's something that's moving forward. As far as hiring and staff, our new veteran service officer, Shannon O'Brien, I'm sorry, Shannon Murphy. How did that? Where did I get Shannon? Okay.
Wow.
Shannon Murphy, I know, really, has started and has been meeting with the Whitman veterans. And I special thank you to Declan, the former VSO, Declan Ware, for his dedication to the town, for stepping in during the transition and for helping train our new VSO a little bit. So after he left and got his new position, he did come in Tuesday evenings, 4:30 to 7:30, just to keep, everything going for us. So now Shannon is, I think tonight is the last night that Declan was going to stop in and see her. So that's great. Our new town hall custodian, Art Stadnick, has started, and he's already proven to be a great addition to our staff.
It turns out I graduated with his son, so shout out Andrew.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And we've hired a Kristen Scherf for our new part-time payroll position. So at the last meeting, we had made an offer and it was accepted. We thought the last time, but that didn't work out. So this is a new person, Kristen Scherf, new part-time payroll position. We're excited to have her. And she'll be starting within the next few weeks. Just a note on the one-stop grant for the Hobart Dam. Unfortunately, the town was not selected for funding for the Hobart Dam project through this round of the one-stop program. This is a very competitive grant round, and we'll continue to look for other funding opportunities for the project. But a special thanks to the Hobart Dam Committee for their effort and their work that they did to put that forward. And then there's the Green Communities in Energy. EV charging stations, and of course, Justin, you would like that, Matt Dyer. We've begun exploring opportunities to install EV charging stations through available mass EVIP and National Grid programs. Potential locations being reviewed include the Corthell Building, Town Hall, Municipal Parking Lot, and the library, just as potential. And then we expect to have additional information to bring back to the board at a future meeting. So Matt has met with some people, about the EV charges, looking at the different sites. We'll collect information and report on that at a future meeting. Let's see what else I have here quickly. The Corthell Building, we've also begun preparing for the Fall Green Communities Grant Round and have identified the Corthell Building as a strong candidate for energy efficiency improvements. So we've done different things, weatherization of the police station before. So each year we look for some other projects that we can submit for. And then the Regal Shoe Site, we continue to work with Old Colony Planning Council on the formal Regal Shoe Site through the Brownfields program. Matt and I had a meeting a week or two ago, and the next step is for the town to go through the foreclosure proceedings, which is something that we never wanted to do before because of the contamination. But because of the grants that will be available and this different grants over the next 5 years that will allow us to do cleanup work and so forth, we are moving with our new tax title attorney on the foreclosure on that process. Of course, when you go through that process, it's not a quick process, but we did give that to our new tax title attorney as Capola and Capola. We used to have Laura Brown. She's no longer practicing as a tax title attorney. So we want to get the foreclosure on that, and then from there, once we own it, we can move forward with the grants. So we'll just keep you posted on that as it moves through the process of foreclosure. That's all I have there.
Okay. Now we need to go into executive session. Two consecutive executive sessions pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and that would be the town administrator, the future town administrator. And second executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel for the provisional deputy fire chief. I will seek a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 All right, we are in executive session. We will return to announce a potential vote on at least one of those items. Right, welcome back to open session. In the executive session, the board did vote a contract with our incoming town administrator, Sabrina Chilcott. I would like to ask for a motion to revote that in open session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. And now I will seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.